Okay, day 5. Today is really understanding the game of commercial real estate. And actually, this is a book that I bought a little while ago at the recommendation. I was actually out for coffee with a friend of mine, and he's a big multifamily investor here in Calgary. He's bought some stuff in the US. And during the conversation, I just kind of asked, what books are you reading? And he mentioned this one. And I don't know how old it is, but I want to say it's probably at least 15 or 20 years old. And the concept that I brought out of that I use now is I've always thought of commercial real estate as a game, kind of like Monopoly, if you will. Obviously, the stakes are much higher and bigger. But in this game, there's really 4 components. And I'm going to give you those components today, and then obviously I'm going to outline them more in the write-up. And those 4 are, number 1, you've got the players. So think of the players as really you've got kind of 2 major decision makers, and they are users, which are tenants, and investors, which are people that are buying them. And then that can break down into further like investors. You can have institutional, you can have private, but I just want to give you the big picture, and then we can drill down a little bit. Next, you've got properties. Properties, obviously, you're going to have retail, industrial, office, multifamily, land, hotels, mobile home communities. So those are all going to fit in the property section. The next is capital markets. And the best way to think of capital markets without kind of going too deep is liquidity or debt. And how are you able to borrow money? Because that's a big factor when purchasing commercial real estate. And then the last is external factors. And what I mean by that is we'll think of it as like government policy or government intervention. If you're in Canada right now and you live in Alberta like I do, you understand how external factors. So for example, we're trying to build a pipeline, and this isn't anything political, but because the government has essentially stalled for the past, 3 or 4 years on this, you're seeing money leave Alberta, and it's actually really hurt the economy here. And so that's a external factor that's now influencing commercial real estate. It has nothing to do with the underlying economics of what's going on in Canada, because quite frankly, the rest of Canada is doing quite well. But you can see how this one impact can influence your property. Another example of an external factor, I'm just thinking of it off the top of my head, but it might be like rent control. So all of a sudden, if your city or state or province introduces rent control, that is an external factor that's going to have dramatic effects on, say, multifamily. So understanding the game and how the players, the properties, the capital markets, and the external factors all interrelate and how they impact one another is critical. Because in any deal that I come across, it's usually one of those 4 that is like the leading indicator, and then I'm always looking at how the other 3 kind of come together. So today is really, we're starting to dive into commercial real estate. I hope that this gives you a better understanding of who everyone is. And in terms of players, I didn't even talk about, let's call the supporting cast, which would be your brokers, the lawyers, accountants. We'll get into that later. I'm just trying to keep this bite size so that we take this thing down in a very systematic way. So that's it. Do the homework below, and we will talk to you. This will be day 5, the weekend off. We'll see you on Monday.